found this beautiful frame to share with you today. It's almost as if this is a beaver dam of sorts. It definitely kind of looks like it, and it has some beautiful colors and textures with the water behind it. So thank you for sharing this frame with me today. I'm always looking for very unique frames to essentially share and perhaps even create moving pictures from. Moving Pictures is a new podcast that I recently put up. It's actually not moving pictures, it's called Moving Portraits, and it definitely showcases a lot of unique and definitely what I see beautiful images that have a moving portion to them. And so, well, most of this frame is captured in stillness, such as the beaver dam like pile of twigs and stuff, logs and whatever. Behind it you see the constant moving water, and in a sense that symbolizes, at least for me, that there are essentially two different worlds that are ongoing right now. There's the world of busyness and chaos and, people running from A to Z and missing all of the letters in between. And then there's the other world out there that many of us are experiencing. And this world is composed of stillness and presence and healing and tranquility, forgiveness and love. See, I understand that there is a major effort in order to essentially create different emotional states that are perhaps not of, benefit for most of humanity. You often look around and you see the color red, for example. See, my short, I'll say very short, experience on psychology is that they are aware that the color red promotes things such as anger, and that's why they perhaps use it in stop signs and red lights of cars, so that when you're stuck in traffic, for example, that you're seeing all of this color red in the stop signs, in the traffic lights, in the people's tail lights, and all over the place on all the different signs. If you notice and you look out at the world, you'll see a lot of brand names they use, such as Staples or the Brick, or, anyways, I'm not going to start listing off names, but you'll see a lot on the different logos of companies that they use the color red because red attracts our eyes, but at the same time it also has the ability to affect our emotions in often at times of a way that is not beneficial, or perhaps even promotes hostility between us. See, one of the ways that our world is created is to elicit or to essentially get us in the states of emotions that they would prefer us to be in, so that we refuse to stay in positivity. What I mean by that is the system that people often refer to is set up to not only contain us, suppress us, but also to influence us to severe degrees where we are limited in our ability to unite and come together, that we're limited in our ability to withstand a lot of the pressures that they're pushing upon us. See, most people wake up in the morning and they have their cup of coffee, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily always help us. I often was drinking coffee for a very long time at Starbucks, and now God has granted me no money, so that I can't go to coffee, so that I can essentially break myself away from coffee. But the system is everything around us. It's created in the traffic jams. It's created in the dog-eat-dog world. It's essentially projected upon us, or essentially programmed within us, within movies, of how they think or how the external world is. So when we wake up in the morning and we are in this positive, I'm going to take the world, suddenly all of these other different parts of the system, they start to fall into place. So for instance, when I was traveling here after dropping my son off at school, I was stuck in traffic jams. And essentially, there's really no need for traffic jams 24 hours a day. It almost seems like no matter where I go now, there's a traffic jam that's somehow prohibiting me from getting to where I want to go. And I don't necessarily mean traffic jam is in downtown LA and you're sitting there for 1 or 2 hours. I mean the traffic moving slowly, or red lights constantly come up every single intersection for me. And yet a lot of these things are creating energy within all of the other drivers around me who are essentially on a race to get back to work, on a race to go. There's been a lot of energy that's been introduced into our system, and this energy isn't here perhaps it's here to help, but it's being utilized in order to distort, meaning that there's a lot of people who feel that they need to go, 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 go. They need to do, and they criticize others for not doing. And when the true key of it, and the reason why the system is introducing this, is because the key to healing, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about before I sat down, by the way. The key to healing is rest. It's relaxation. It's self-reflection. Self-reflection is one of the best possible ways of healing, because it's looking upon ourselves and realizing why we did what we did when we did and how we did it, and perhaps, being comfortable with not doing it that way any longer. Recognizing those triggers in our lives that cause us to essentially react the way that we react rather than respond. See, one of the tools, the emotional tools that they utilize in order to hold us in these never-ending states of stress is fear. Fear of higher gas prices, fear of a war, fear of all of these different things you see in the mainstream media. I quickly recognized back in the campaign of 2019 to 2020 that they were using fear on CNN, for example, in the way that they put up the screen images, the counters and the clickers, and how they kept repeating the same traumatic news over and over again. And it wasn't until I started to see those actors in the news feeds suddenly appear in other propaganda that I really realized that the whole entire world that we see on news is an entire movie script. And it's truly hard to understand that, but yet when we understand that the system is composed of so many different things, and I'll get into that later, and I've talked about it in the past, I realize that sometimes when I start to talk about something that I don't want to get diverted. So back to what I was saying. So in that time, I recognized that they were essentially trying to elicit fear. And fear is something that has been used against humanity for such a long time. Fear of scarcity, fear of lack, fear of loss of love, fear of, a dog barking. So many different fears we have been programmed with, and that essentially has considerably limited us. But not only that, I've recently come to understand that through fear, what I've talked before in a previous podcast, the shadow self is better able to control us. That when we're in a state of fear, we're opening up all of those little, I don't know what to call them, but those traumatic entry points that the shadow self can perhaps enter and then manipulate us into getting us to say or do something that we wouldn't do, thus creating a larger amount of fear and hostility among the people. And so the one way to get out of that fear of trap is essentially to relax. And yet you'll find, as I have, that when you start to get to that point where you're relaxing, where you're chilling out, where you're not following the Joneses or keeping up with the Joneses, that you stop hustling as much as you do, you'll have the world, the system, as the movie The Matrix showed, come at you and try to essentially mock you or shun you or shame you. Actually, shun is a word that my cousin recently used. he's been recently been able to get out more so of his environment where he was in a constant state of work, 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 come home, eat, go to sleep, go back to work. And yes, we use our coping mechanisms, but yet for most of the time there was that constant need to do, as opposed to just sit back and relax. And so today, as opposed to doing anything else and even working at creating my videos, I decided to come sit by this, we'll call it a lazy river, with this beautiful work that these beavers did, and relax and take in the fresh air and ground with nature. See, grounding is something that I've talked about before, and grounding is another way of relaxing. It's another way of combating the fear and the emotional chaos that is all around us right now. Grounding is taking your shoes off and placing your bare feet upon the soil of wherever it is you live and connecting with Earth. Earth, in my belief system, is a conscious being who has ideas and a heart of its own. It actually has its own inner sun. Something that I learned recently, and I'll share with you, is there is a central sun within our planet, as well as a central sun within our bodies, ourselves. And when I say our bodies, I don't necessarily mean our physical body, I mean our body of existence, the entirety of who we are. For instance, our body is within our soul, and within the center of all of that, or somewhere down deep beneath it, we have our own central sun. And when we ground our feet on the earth, when we place our feet and we relax, we take some deep breaths. Actually, there's this method of breathing that I learned in TFT called collarbone breathing, and I highly recommend that you search for it on YouTube. And it's a technique that was developed or perhaps utilized by Dr. Callahan, the inventor of thought field therapy. And it's a way of essentially releasing on a massive scale and calming yourself. It's a technique that you can use wherever you are. You're in a busy office building, you're by the side of a road, stuck in traffic, or, well, not stuck in traffic, you're on the side of the road, but nonetheless, you're in a stressful state. You can use this technique called collarbone breathing, where you do a series of taps, and it's very beneficial to alleviating stresses. And at the same time, when you're grounding, you can use that technique to further strengthen the connection between your inner sun and the Earth's inner sun. See, we hold within our field and within our bodies an awful lot of various energies, and that's kind of what I was talking about and what this frame truly represents. You see the stillness of the earth, but yet the energy of the water, and that water is holding a considerable amount of energy, and that's why it's moving. Kinetic energy moves, potential energy holds. So this frame that we're looking at right now is a really good example of the, we'll call it the separation or the difference between potential energy, the twigs, and kinetic energy being the water moving behind it. So when you are doing that grounding practice, you are helping balance the energy within your own body. Because as we move through our worlds and the system puts in these fears, it puts in these stressors, the system actually does a lot of controlling of this hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone in a sense that's released through your body. And it's wonderful if you're requiring it for a bear is chasing you, or a saber-toothed tiger, or a woolly mammoth, or you're ready to go into a Pokemon battle. Well, in that sense, cortisol is definitely going to help. But what the system does is it keeps us in a state of fight or flight. It keeps pumping in that cortisol at high degrees. It's definitely exhibited when you look at playing video games. Playing video games is an artificial reality that is put in front of you. And when your eyes look at that screen, your eyes don't, or your brain doesn't anyways, recognize that you aren't actually in a state of fight or flight. So it pumps in that cortisol. And that cortisol goes around your system, creating that stressful anxiety that we often feel. And so doing things such as grounding allows you to balance that energy. Now, how does it balance that energy? Well, you hold within your field all of that stress and that chaos and that kinetic energy. And that kinetic energy simply needs to get released. Well, one of the ways for it to release are to lash out at people, to finger someone because, they're driving slowly, or it's to say something you don't necessarily mean, meaning that it's putting you in a state more so of wanting to release that energy. And so when you ground, what actually happens is that energy is able to move into the earth. And perhaps that's where it's meant to go. Perhaps that energy is better utilized by the earth. Because what I believe is happening is that the earth itself is evolving, is essentially, as I've mentioned before, evolving into a new Pokemon, a new state of being. And perhaps evolution really isn't what we think it is. I recently had a massive cognition about time, and that we don't necessarily live in, trying to figure out how to say this properly, but that perhaps time isn't going the direction that we believe. And so perhaps evolution really isn't evolving into something new and greater, that evolution is returning to what we once were. See, what humans once were, for example, and a long, we'll call it quotation marks, time ago, is we once were massive creators, that we worked alongside God and we co-created this beautiful earth with God. And that through differing techniques and materials such as Ethereum and Materium and other things, we were able to create what we believed or what we felt or even maybe what we desired and was in alignment with the primordial directive. We created beautiful areas and habitats and experiences for many other beings perhaps to experience themselves. Like, I don't know how many beings or different kinds of beings there have been in this reality or this beautiful garden that God created, yet I feel that we are only a very fraction of what we once were, and that we can say and use their word, evolving back into what we once were. See, in Pokemon, there's this one technique that happens where you can de-evolve a Pokemon. So you can be a stage 2 Pokemon, for example, and then someone can flip a card or use a move, and it de-evolves you. It puts you back into a lower stage of being. And therefore your abilities, your strengths, and your health points become lower. And that's, in a sense, what I see has happened to us. And the system has used differing techniques to keep us limited so that we were unable to see that we have at one time been more than we once were. See, I read in this book, and I've talked about it often, I really need to remember the title, but it's this book by a woman named Sarah, and she talks about how we were once part of many different civilizations, from Avalon to Tartaria to Atlantis, Lemuria to, I don't know, well, once again, that's getting into a long list of names, so we'll stop right there. But we were once part of many other ancient civilizations which were far more advanced. And what we're seeing now on YouTube especially is an explosion. And I use the word explosion because every day I see new videos telling me about Tartaria, Atlantis, and Lemuria, and books that are coming out. And so when you have something that comes into your feed, it's often an algorithm, yes, but it's also, as I explained it to my sister recently, it's also as if the universe or God, I won't even use that word universe to represent God anymore. It's as if God is directing us in a piece of information that can perhaps unlock other cognitions. There is so many times when I go back and I listen to an old GIA report, like the other day, and that's where I came to this cognition about time, is I was flipping through old GIA reports. Now, the GIA reports are Global Intelligence Agency reports. They're an office that exists beyond the CIA and beyond a lot of other different organizations that you're aware of. And they publish a report, and I was flipping through their older reports and I came across a report and I just put it on and I started listening to it. Now, I've listened to this thing like 5 times already, maybe more so. It's a 2-hour report, and suddenly I was struck with new information and new cognitions from that information. You see, each time that you listen to something, you are a different person, completely different person. And if you understand being in the moment and now, you'll have a better idea of that. But you are a completely different person, and you've had newer experiences and newer downloads, and all of these downloads and upgrades have turned you into a better version of yourself, hopefully. And so when you listen to something new, you're actually able to therefore redeem or reveal more information that perhaps wasn't visible to you before. And so when I listened to this report, I suddenly heard new things about time and about the direction of the time, the fact that we live in an inverted world, and therefore what we're seeing is a reflection of what's actually happening. Now, I will right now, I'm gonna right here pin that video up in the right-hand corner when I publish this video, because that was an amazing report, and I highly recommend that everything that you listen to, that you resonate with, you listen to it as many times as possible. And do that with spaced repetition, meaning that come back in a few days from now and listen to anything that you truly resonated with. And you'll find more, because that system that I talked to you about perhaps won't be standing guard as it did the first time. Not only that, you will be a stronger person every time that you utilize a skill that you are developing every day. And believe me, every day we are getting stronger. Every day the matrix is losing more and more power. Every day, those who would choose to control us are losing their ability to do just that. The system is falling. And that's why we're seeing this amount of chaos around us. And yet, when we ground ourselves, when we sit in front of a big bunch of twigs and branches and debris and driftwood from the river behind it, we are strengthening ourselves when we ground. Now, quickly back to that grounding aspect. So when we're going out into the world and we're wearing our insulated shoes, and our shoes actually are purposely using insulation to essentially separate us from the earth, our pavements, our sidewalks, coming back to how the system's completed. Oh, hello, dear. Oh, I am so blessed right now. Let me see. Here, I'll show it to you. I don't know if you can see it. They're pretty well camouflaged in there, but right across the river there, 2 deer have come to listen to me. Oh, good. They're actually in the frame now. So if they come closer, you'll be able to see them. But yeah, they're pretty well camouflaged. There's I guess a doe and her baby deer, and they're sitting there staring at me right now. That's so beautiful. Hello, dear. Yes, I can see you. You can drink water, no problem. Come down, it's okay. I don't know if you can see it or not, but anyways, I'll just let them calm down. Perhaps my energy attracted them, but yet scared them. Oh, they're there. He's coming through. Yeah, he's right there in the top right. Anyways, so when you ground, you actually share that energy. Something that I learned in physics is energy essentially wants to move in specific directions. And so energy will always, I don't know if I should anyways, when you ground, the energy that you have been holding within your field essentially moves into the earth, and the earth is able to perhaps utilize it, but more importantly, it removes it from your field. See you later, deer. And I can see their butts as they walk away. I think they wanted to come here to take a drink of water, but you know, they're a little bit hesitant with me sitting here across the river staring at them. Anyways, so when you ground, you're releasing that energy into the earth. And so when we walk around in our world all the time and we're wearing our shoes and we're in our office towers and we're in our, well, skyscrapers, we're essentially separated from earth. And so all of the energy that we are essentially bringing into our field through the screens we're watching, through the entertainment that we're being programmed by, to the hostilities or the energies of others around us from the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, and you know, there's so many other different areas where we're absorbing energy, even from the sun itself, the energy that comes in from the planet. When all of that energy comes into our field, well, we need to release it in positive ways, and that way is releasing it with tranquility and grounding and different practices such as meditation. And I'll once again promote my Do No Thing challenges. I called them challenges because when I first started creating them, I would sit honestly for a minute trying to sit there while I recorded a video, and I would find myself in an agitated state. I would find myself in a challenged state of even sitting there for 1 minute to record a video. And then I moved them up to 3 minutes, and now they're into full-length meditation videos where the importance is simply to just be present and allow those thoughts to come and go just like this river. Imagine you're sitting here by the river and you're meditating and thoughts are coming and going. Now, those energies, those shadow selves or those narcissistic energies or those thoughts that are just popping into your head that are telling you that you need to go pick up the children later today, that you need to go get some milk or buy some gas, or you need to go to work and what will happen at work, and you know, you go through this spin and cycle of all these different events. Those are once again pre-programmed parts of the system, of the matrix, in order to get you into a point of instability and chaos, and they hope fear. Because when you have, or when you essentially hold on to more versions of fear, and there are many different versions of fear in my opinion anyways, when you're holding all of those energies within your field, you're unable to just be, and therefore you're easier to control. So I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to sit here by this river, and perhaps if I remain silent, those deer will come back and have a swig of water, and I'll get to enjoy their being, although I know they're probably sitting here spying on me, waiting for me to go. So thank you so much for sharing your attention with me, and I truly have faith that we are all on a road of massive healing. We are waking up at a massive scale, and we've been doing this for a very long time, and there are those who would prefer that we didn't wake up, because they would prefer the world that they once lived in, where we were the meek. Yet we are now the beings that we have always been, and we're essentially remembering, and that's REMembering. So not remembering as in remembering something in the past, but remembering as we are reattaching with parts of ourselves that have always been ourselves. So thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me, and I highly recommend after we depart from this video, go through my playlist of Do No Thing and experience the beautiful frames, and I'm going to post that at the end, because I highly encourage you to take some time, not only to support me by viewing my my videos, especially any of them really, but especially the meditative ones on repeat, mass repeat. Every day you're allowed to allowed to. Every day YouTube counts up to 5 watches of each video. So put one video on repeat for 5 hours while you go out to work, after you've listened to it, of course, and reconnect with God, reconnect with yourself, reconnect with Earth. So thank you so much. I love you, and we're gonna have an amazing new Earth. And by the way, happy April's Day. We are no longer fools. We are the Homo sapiens. Have a wonderful day. Love you so much, and thank you.